Okay, welcome to Love, Laughter, and Limits. I'm Tom Dozier, and this lesson is Handling Problem Behavior, Effective Parenting Skills for Young Adults, Part 3. We're going to talk about how to deal with unacceptable young adult behavior. We're going to deal with trivial stuff that just is annoying and irritating, and we'll even deal with some stuff that is just absolutely intolerable. And again, I would like to acknowledge Dr. Glenn Latham for much of the content of this lesson. Okay, I need you as a parent, one of the things that you need to do is to exercise self-control with respect to your young adults in a number of ways. One is you need to not be a pushover. When your child is pushing at you to do things or have permission or blessing or have the use of resources that you don't agree with, don't be a pushover. You need to respect your values. Whatever it is that you value in terms of integrity, morality, ethics, decency, religion, it's up to you, but you need to be consistent with your values. So you don't provide your resources for anything that is inconsistent with your values. And this is key because if it's something that is against your value system, you know, it shows that you don't have much belief in your value system if you're providing resources to go against your value system. Another thing is that when it comes to your home also needs to be consistent with your value system. So whatever comes into your home and happens in your home needs to be consistent with your values. So this has to do with music that you would consider totally intolerable and unacceptable if it was being played aloud, drugs, pornography, sexual behavior, bringing girlfriends into their rooms. If it's within your value system, that's fine. But if it's not, you should take a stand and say, no, that is not in line with our values. And you want to calmly insist and persist that no, you may not bring those kind of things into our home. Now, one of the reasons to stand your ground and to say that this is unacceptable and will not be permitted is that it really is a strong statement and a teaching lesson to your child of your value system. And that will have effect on them as they really start maturing into adulthood. It's getting a little bit later now than it would be in the teen years, but you're making a clear statement of your value system, and you should be consistent with it. And it is influential in terms of the long-term development of your child. So you don't want to support things that are against your value system in any way. And if your child is pushing you, then you can take all the time you want and need to make a decision. If they're pushing you to know if they can have money to do something and you don't feel good about it, say, well, if you want the decision right now, the answer is no. But if you want to give me some time to think about it more, I will. Well, that's a way of, it's in their interest to let you think about it longer, right? You want to stay calm. And if you start to get angry, you need to stay calm. If you start to get angry, walk away. Take a break, right? Because if you get angry, you have lost the power. That's a very key point, that when you start getting angry and shouting and raising the intensity, that's not really a powerful move in terms of persuasion. It's actually a weak move in terms of persuasion. So in that regard, you want to stay calm, and then you want to try not to overreact. Some of the things you need to think out, and you need to make a plan, especially if it's a repeating problem. You don't want to just come down on it in a reactive way. Stop, think about it, and make a proactive plan as to what you can do to try to make it better. Or call me and I'll try to help you make the plan if you need some help. Now, this skill, ask, don't tell, may or may not work with your child depending upon the age, but it's definitely better than nagging or griping or telling your child over and over again what to do. So in this, you want to stay calm. You want to have the child essentially tell you what they're supposed to be doing or what you expect them to do. And they may protest, and if they protest, you want to respond to their emotion. You know, I know you're tired, but even so, what is it that you said you'd do for me now? What are you supposed to be doing for me? What are you supposed to do now? What do I need you to do right now? And you're not demanding that they do it. You just want them to tell you instead of you telling them. And if they protest a fourth time, then you need to move on. You need to say, you know, I know you're really tired, but I do expect you to help me out in the yard for a little while. And then you move away, because ask, don't tell is not a coercive skill. It's not a skill where we're putting the screws to the kid. We're simply trying to get them to say it. And if the child does say it, then you're positive and you say, thanks, I'd appreciate that. Or, right, thank you. If you said, tomorrow morning I need some help in the yard, would you be willing to help me? Yeah, I'll help you. Then you go in and you say, hey, Saturday morning, time for some yard work. And they're still sitting there. And then you go in and you say, you know, I know you're probably tired, but what is it that I need you to do for me? Well, you need me to go out and help you in the yard. Thanks. That's exactly right. And you turn and walk away. Very influential. That's ask, don't tell. And depending on the age and kind of the relationship, you use it as more of an authority or more of an equal. Okay. For problem behavior, something that is serious, called consequential behavior, behavior that's going to hurt, damage, destroy, that's cruel or evil or totally against your values, you just want to stop it. You don't want to rail on the kids. You don't want to scream and yell. You want to just say, stop. No, no, you may not do that in my home. No, you may not bring those things into my home. And just insist that it stop. You know, you don't want to coerce the child and step in and try to use physical force, right? You can't do that, and it would blow up if you did. And it's even good in terms of some of this problem behavior if you will admit that you can't stop them, right? You know I can't force you to leave my car alone. But what do I expect you to do? Well, you expect me to leave it alone when you tell me I can't use it. That's exactly right. Thank you. And there's something about letting them know that you're not this king with power over them that gets rid of some of this pushback, the mule behavior, okay, where you're saying, you will not use my car. Watch me, right? So try to give those expectations a chance where you're honest about the fact that you can't absolutely stop them, but that you really would appreciate them doing something. Give the expectations 1, 2, 3 tries even before you start setting up limits. Now, there's one problem behavior I want to discuss briefly, and that's where a child is going to get physical with you. If you think there is any risk of a child getting physical, meaning hitting, pushing, shoving, in any way, you should let the child know that that is assault and battery, and that you will call the police should he or she do that. And this is not a threat, right? You need to do this because it needs to be very clear that in your home, we don't hit, we don't push, and we don't intimidate that way. Now, assault is attempting to hit or threatening. And battery is actually hitting or pushing to harm or in a rude and insolent manner. So it doesn't have to be hurt even if they hit. Okay? And if they're pinning you in your room and you can't get past them because they're going to block you and push you back and you feel threatened, that's assault. So let them know that you're not going to be pushing and shoving them, but that you expect the same of them, and let them know what's going to happen if you think there's any risk of that. Now, limits. In dealing with behavior that you don't like, limits is really where you control yourself and your stuff. This is an adult you're dealing with, and anything that that child does is voluntary. It's their choice. So to you, limits are really contingencies. Contingencies on what the child is going to do and what you're going to do. Now there's one that's a pretty short-term contingency called Grandma's Law, and it's based on what we call high probability behaviors and low probability behaviors. A high probability behavior is something the kid will want to do on his own. Eating, watching TV, playing video games, surfing the internet, texting, listening to music, friends, anything with friends in any way, shape, or form, shopping, all those kind of things are things that your young adult would like to do. Low probability behaviors are ones that your child can do if they're prompted, rewarded, or coerced, but they probably won't just do them spontaneously on their own. You know, helping out around the house, cleaning up after themselves, taking care of a responsibility. Those are the kind, letting you know when they're coming and going. Back to that other one. And those, once again, the child can do, they just don't like to do it so much. And so Grandma's Law is basically, eat your vegetables, then you can have dessert. Do the stuff that's needed to be done, and then you're going to make something available that the child wants to do. Right? When you finish mowing the lawn, you can take the boat out to the lake for the afternoon. Wow, okay, that's your boat. That's probably, maybe they'll pay $50, $100 in gas for it, but that's a resource, and you know, they've said that they'll mow the lawn occasionally, and you've asked them, they said they would do it, so this is a perfectly fine contingency. You want to take the boat out? Fine. Take care of your responsibility to help around the house, and you can take it. You know, when you do your schoolwork well, then you can use all the extra goodies around the house, all the special games and TVs and, you know, the internet and the cable channels. As adults, we think of this as motivation. And once again, this is going to depend somewhat on what you really control as a parent, and it has to do with turning privileges over to the child that you really control. You know, first do this, then you can do that. Yeah, you can take the boat out after you've taken care of the lawn. Now, for other non-compliance problems that are going to be rolling along here, you want to avoid verbal coercion. You want to avoid yelling or screaming or criticizing or getting upset. All of these don't work very well. They create a lot of contention and pushback between you and your child. You want to recognize your lack of power. As a parent of an adult child, legally, your adult child is on their own. They can do whatever they want to. So this is really a relationship issue and a cooperation issue and also a contingency issue. Now you want to be slow to use aversives, to go negative, to try to take away anything, because they tend to create this coercive environment where the child just pushes back even more. And you can talk about what you expect with a version of, you know, parental expectations as you need it, but you remember, you want to let the child tell you. Once the child knows what you expect, it should only be stated by the child. You want to talk about what's earned by cooperating with you. And then when you need to, you may want to set a limit. And a limit is what you will or will not provide based on what the child does, based on the child's behavior. So essentially, it's a contingency between something the child does or doesn't do and money, goods, or services that you provide. And you don't want to try to get into a punishment mode and try to take away their cell phone or, you know, demand this or that. But if, let's just say it's the cell phone, I had a dad who was so insistent that his almost junior in college daughter have some level of responsibility around the house of cleaning out the dishwasher every day, you know, putting the dishes away, that he was going to take away her cell phone. I said, fine, if you're going to do that because you pay for it, then just say, you know, honey, I need you to take care of the dishwasher every morning. And when you do that, you know, then you can continue to use your cell phone as much as you like. But if you don't take care of the dishwasher, then your cell phone is going to stop working, right? You won't be able to use your cell phone. It'll cost you the use of your cell phone. And, you know, I know that if you want to, you can get a cell phone on your own. So once again, you're admitting the lack of power, and that's really up to you if you would want to do that. But, and let's make sure we're very clear, and then have the child repeat it back. So in general, with punishment, you've got to be careful because punishment is risky. It decreases motivation. It decreases cooperation. You know, punishment is more difficult to use than recognition and reinforcement and positive interaction. And to be effective, really, punishment must be known in advance, like the phone and the dishwasher. Let her know in advance that if she doesn't empty the dishwasher, it's going to cost her the privilege of her phone. It has to be made contingent on the child's behavior, not on how upset you are at the time. It needs to be consistent, it needs to be reasonable, and enforceable. And if the child says, well, I'm not going to give you my cell phone even if you want it, then you have to decide, well, I'm willing to wait a month and just stop paying the bill? Am I willing to call up the phone company and disconnect the service? Or is it a company where I have a password and I can just deactivate the phone? But it has to be enforceable. You don't want to have a fight over it. And really, it's best to spin it as an earned privilege or money, not as a takeaway. You know, I know you like us to provide certain things, and as long as you're a contributing member of the family, we're happy to provide those. And one of the things that we need you to do is to take care of the dishwasher every morning. So when you take care of the dishwasher, what are some of the privileges that you enjoy? My phone, goofing around all day, watching the movies, using Netflix. That's right. And should you choose not to empty the dishwasher in the morning, those are exactly the privileges that you will not be able to use afternoon. And then you let it go at that. And then you don't nag or gripe or complain or remind or cajole. You just let the contingency do the griping for you. And then when you cut the phone off, she's going to be hacked. She's going to scream and yell and rant and rave. Don't let it faze you. Just say, you know what? If you empty the dishwasher tomorrow, the phone will be turned back on. And that's it. Right? That's a form of parental expectations with a specific reward. So in summary, you have limited power to control your child. You need to work at getting cooperation because you're dealing with a person who is like a peer employee at work, okay? Not a subordinate. You can't demand and insist. You can ask, and if necessary, if the person's not willing, then you can tie the goodies that you provide. And by the way, one of the things that just came to my mind is it's acceptable for you to know that the house is secure at a certain time. If you don't sleep well, if the house isn't secure after a certain hour, then that's okay. You can insist on that there's no comings and goings from the house after 10 o'clock, which would be really kind of bizarre, but you know, after midnight, 2 o'clock, whatever the time is. And that's up to you because it's your house, and if you do it in a sane and stable way, then your child can choose to either live with that contingency or find a place of their own. And you have to be willing to live with that because they are an adult. Right? You need to hold the line on your values and what you provide money for, what you support, what your resources go towards. Right? You want to limit, or you want to have limits with respect to what you provide, and those limits are really contingent on what your child does. It's what you do versus what the child does. We talked about Grandma's Law, which is a way to help kids do some things that we need them to do. It's a very short-term contingency. And, you know, we talked about punishment and that you can set it up if it's something you control, if it's your resource for good and bad behavior. But beware, punishment tends to create pushback and other behavior problems, you know, of their own. So thank you for watching Handling Problem Behavior, Effective Parenting Skills for Young Adults, Part 3. I'm Tom Dozier, wishing you an abundance of love and laughter in your family, along with some limits, which you still need with your young adult to help your child make the often difficult transition from dependent child to independent adult. Thank you.